came out of prison this time, and after a short period of continuing with my normal ways, my usual ways, every day seemed dark. I was waking up with fear. I was waking up with emptiness. I was waking up unloved. I didn't even love myself. I hated myself. I hated everyone around me. Not everyone had deserted me because I'd pushed them away. I'd been so nasty to people that no one wanted to know me, and I felt alone. For the first time in my life, I just felt totally and utterly alone. And for the first time ever, I got on my knees and I asked for help. I asked for help from a God I didn't know. I had no concept of this God. I've been not brought up with any concept whatsoever of God or Jesus. Never even heard the name Jesus that often, other than maybe on the TV or the odd friend who was a Christian, well, the odd acquaintance at work that was a Christian talking about Jesus. I'd never been introduced to him whatsoever. And I got on my knees and asked for help to God that I didn't know, and also to my father, who by this time had stopped drinking. He'd seen sense and he'd been sober for 2.5 years, and I reached out for help. The help I actually wanted at that time was maybe a little bit of a financial help, a meal in my tummy, a roof over my head, and basically get my head below the parapet while all the bullets flew over, and I could then go out again and try again. I tried to successfully drink, but he knew that's not what I needed. It's what I wanted, but not what I needed. What I actually needed was to be separated from this life of drugs and alcohol, and lies and debauchery and filth. And so he got me help for my drug and alcohol problem, and I went away for a while, and I came back to my hometown, which was then Rosendale, Bake Up in Rosendale, and I was free from the drugs and the alcohol for the first time I was 32-year-old, and so it was the first time in 16 years, 17 years I've been free from any alcohol or drugs. I'd been drinking constantly up to then, other than when I were in prison for quite a long, for years and years. Every day, 7 days a week, I had been drinking or using drugs of some type. And I was free for the first time. I was physically clean from the drugs and the alcohol, but inside I was still empty. I was still dying inside. I was yearning for something to fill this void inside me. And so I continued to use other things in order to fill that void. Unhealthy relationships, pornography, spending money I didn't have, getting into debt, internet chat rooms, all sorts of things that I shouldn't have gone into. And I found I was in a life where I knew I couldn't blame alcohol and drugs anymore. I was so down and depressed and suicidal. I was suicidal because I'd got my life into a mess again without drugs and alcohol. So I realised there was something desperately wrong. I was yearning, like I say, for something bigger to fill this void that I couldn't fill with anything. It was a void that had been left by what was my God for a long time, which was alcohol, drugs, money. And I didn't know who to reach out to this time. I'd asked God for help. He'd helped me in that situation, taking the drugs and alcohol away from me. And I met a lady in an organisation that I was going to get further help for my drink problem. And she introduced me for the first time to Jesus. I was explaining one day to a group of people how I felt. For the first time I was sharing with people how I actually felt inside. I'd kept it all to myself for years and years. And this person came up to me at the end of this meeting and said, "You need Jesus to fill that soul, to fill that void in your life. He's the only person that can and will fill that void." And I dismissed it out of hand, really, because of the upbringing. I think I just dismissed it, but the seed was planted that day. I really pondered on that, and I got to a point again, a suicidal stage in my life, where I really thought this is the end. This is the only way to get rid of this emptiness and this horrible feeling. And I was sat in a house that was an absolute tip. I'd given up on myself. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't using drugs, but I was doing everything else, and my house was a tip. I'd not been paying my bills because I got into debt. My phone had been cut off, and people were knocking on my door asking for money. And there was one particular Sunday I was there, I was contemplating actually taking my life that Sunday. And my phone had been cut off for 3 weeks. And the phone rang on the Sunday morning, 9:30 in the morning. And it was the same lady that came to me in that meeting a few weeks prior. And she actually said, "My husband and I were wondering whether you'd like to join us at church this morning." And that church was Hebron Pentecostal Church. And I was so desperate, and I was so low, and I was so empty. I actually jumped at the chance, and I thought, well, I'm going to give it a try. And I did give it a try. I went along, and I listened to the pastor preaching, and I listened to the wonderful, lively music, and I liked some of the people at the church as well. I got involved in some ways. I got into a home group. But I strayed away. My life started getting better again, and I thought it was my doing. I thought it was my will that had got me back on my feet. And I went back into my profession, which was sales, and I started making money again. I started earning a lot of money, and money again became my God. It became I worshipped money. It was the only important thing in my life at that time. And along this path that I was walking, this dangerous path, I met a lady who's to change my life for the rest of my life. And I believe she will change my life even more from now on. And it was a relationship I set up basically completely on lies and deception. I told her lies about myself because I didn't like myself, so I wanted myself to look better. And this woman, she took me on anyway. She loved me, and I couldn't love her back yet, but she loved me and loved me and loved me more. But my behaviours meant the relationship was on a downward spiral right from the start, because I was deceiving her. I was deceiving her as to who I really was, and I didn't believe in myself, so I couldn't handle anybody believing in me, even if I didn't believe in myself. It was a very difficult path I was walking, and we were on the brink of splitting up this one particular day, and it was a hard time. And I actually said to Angela, I said, the best time of my recovery was when I was attending church, and then I dismissed it. And not long afterwards, a lady moved in next door to us in Bury, and she was a Christian, and she had a son. And Angela got talking to Joan over the fence every day nearly, and I didn't know what they were talking about. I used to just stay in the house. I wasn't one for talking to other people.